Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also make sure you turn off your hot and cold water supplies. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the Whirlpool washer water inlet valve assembly. It's going to be a very easy repair and should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the new wiring harness and the water inlet valve assembly. The water inlet valve assembly is what lets water into the washing machine and distributes it around to the dispensers. The main reason to be changing it out is if any of the solenoids have failed and you're not getting water, or the body is cracked and you're getting water leaking on the floor. In order to get to the part, we have to open up the top of the machine. So the first thing we're going to do is put a piece of tape on the lid so when we lift it up, it doesn't open up. Make sure you use a good piece of tape so the lid doesn't spring up when you lift up the top. Now that we have the lid taped down, we have to release the locks that hold the top to the cabinet. They're located about 6 inches in from each corner. We're going to slide the putty knife in and you'll feel it spring against the lock. Once you have the lock pushed in, you can twist the putty knife to release it, and you have to lift up on the top and separate it. You got to be careful so it doesn't snap back down. Once you have one side up, we can come do the other side. Once you have them both released, and carefully lift the top up. Once you have the top up all the way, we're going to support it with a lanyard. These hinges aren't very strong and you don't want to use those to try to support the whole top assembly. So we're going to use a lanyard and just hook it into the top and then onto the cabinet. Now that we have the washer top supported, we can put a towel down so we can take all the hoses off the water valve. There's quite a few water hoses here, so if you want to take a picture or write down where these go, you can do that before you take the hoses off. Once you're ready, you can grab your pliers. We can take all the clamps off and take the hoses off the water valve. If your clamps are as rusty as ours, you may want to consider replacing them. Now that we have all the hoses out, we can pull the towel out and put the top down. We're not going to close it all the way and lock it down, so if you want you can leave the lanyard in here and just lower it down. Once you have the top down, we can go around back. Now that we're around back of the washer, we can take the fill hoses off the water valve. We're going to put a towel down on the floor to catch any water that may come out. Once you have the towel down, we can grab our pliers and take the hoses off. When you're taking these off, you want to remember which one's hot and which one's cold so you don't put them on the wrong spot when we put them back on. Once you have the hose broken free, you can just unscrew it with your hand. Now that we have the fill hoses disconnected, we can use a 1/4-inch nut driver to loosen up the 3 screws that hold the console down. You don't want to take these all the way out, but you'll notice as you get to a certain point they stop unscrewing, so you just want to lift them up a little bit to make sure that they're released from the lower part. They can stay in there when we lift the console up, but you just have to make sure they're all the way up. Once you have the screws loose, we can rotate the console up and carefully set it on the top of the washer so you don't damage it. Now that we have the control panel open, we have access to the water inlet valve assembly. It's located over here on the right hand side. Since we get a whole new wiring harness with the valve, we're going to have to pull out the entire wiring harness. So we're going to start with the thermistor. It's located over here on the left side, attached to the control assembly. Before we disconnect the thermistor from the control, we're going to cut this zip tie. Holds all the wires together. Once you have it off, we can take a small flathead screwdriver and press the locking tab down and disconnect it from the control. And then there's a bunch of mounting tabs that the wiring harness goes into. So we're going to have to take a small screwdriver and get them out from underneath all those. Once you have the thermistor wire out, we can disconnect the two bigger wiring harnesses from the end of the control. There's locking tabs on each of these. All you have to do is press them down and pull the wiring harness off. Then we can disconnect these three wiring harnesses so we can get the power cord out of the way. There's a little locking tab. You can just lift up on it and pull it off. Now that we have these wiring harnesses out of the way, we can lift the power cord out of the console and lift it over these solenoids. And we're just going to lay it over here on the other side until we're ready to put it back in. Once you have the power cord out of the way, we can reach in and lift out these three mounting points. They're just pressed in. All you have to do is lift up on the wiring harness and they should come right out. Once you have all three of those out, we can use the 1/4-inch nut driver to take the screws out that hold the water valve into the washer. Once you have both screws out, we can lift the water inlet valve assembly out of the washer. Here's the old water inlet valve assembly next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. As you can see, they redesigned the solenoid connections, and that's why they give you a whole new wiring harness. All the solenoids are in the same position, and the wires are the same colors, so it should go in the exact same way we took it out. To put the new water valve assembly in, we're going to line it up with the openings in the console and press it down into place. Once you have it all the way down, we can grab the 1/4-inch nut driver and put the two screws in to hold it in place. Once you have the water valve secure, we can route the power cord through. Remember, there's this little mounting tab that goes into this hole right here. Once you have the mounting tab pushed into place, we can set the block into the console. To put the new wiring harness in, we're going to lay it out about where it's going to be connected, and then we're going to go all the way over to the other end of the console and connect the thermistor wiring harness. To put the thermistor wire in, we're going to run her underneath the wire harness bundle, just like when we took it off. And then we're going to plug it into the main control board. All you have to do is push it in so you get a good connection. Once you have it plugged in, we can put the zip tie around the wire bundle and the blue wire of the thermistor. Once you have the zip tie in place, we can route the wire harness through the clips. To get the wires underneath the clips, you can lift up on them with a small screwdriver. Once you have both wires in place, we can do the other clips. Once you have the thermistor wires run through the clips, we can attach the rest of the wiring harnesses. First one we're going to do is the control board. There's a large and a small one. The small one goes on this one, and the large one goes underneath it. All you have to do is push these in so they get a good connection and lock in place. Now that we have the two wiring harnesses connected to the main control board, we can hook everything else up to the water inlet valve. First thing we're going to do is hook up these two to the main hot and cold water line. The white one goes on this one. All you have to do is push these in so they snap on and get a good connection. The one that went on the cold water was a purple one. So we're just going to route this over and hook it up. Then we can do the thermistor. Thermistor is the double blue wire. Just goes right here. All you have to do is snap it down so it locks in place. Next we're going to do the yellow. And then we have the white. Then the purple and the red. Once you have all the wire harnesses hooked up, we can put the console back together. You want to make sure we have these 5 tabs lined up before we flip it over. Once you have the tabs lined up, we can flip it over and tighten the screws down. Once you have it down and in place, we can use the 1/4-inch nut driver to tighten the 3 screws down. Now that we have the console put back together, we can reattach the fill hoses. When you put the hot and cold water hoses on, you want to make sure you put the cold on the cold and the hot on the hot. You can start them by hand so you don't strip the threads, and then use your pliers to tighten them down so you get a good seal. Now that we have the water fill hoses attached, we can go around front. Now that we're back around front, we can lift the whole top assembly up again. You want to make sure your tape is still there so the lid doesn't fling open. And be careful as you lift it up that your lanyard is still there. Once you have the top supported, we can grab our pliers and put the hoses onto the new water valve. We're going to hook the water nozzle up first. That one goes right here. You want to make sure you push all these down and then use your pliers to move the clamp all the way down so you get a good seal. Next, we're going to do the one that goes over to the fabric softener. Then the one that goes up to the detergent. And lastly, the one that goes to the bleach. Once you have all the hoses reconnected, we can put the top down on the machine. To put the top back down, we have to take the lanyard off first. We're going to lift up on the top a little bit to take the tension off. Then we can unhook the lanyard on the top and the bottom. Then we can carefully lower the top down. As you lower it down, you want to make sure that these holes right here line up on the bolts as you lower it down. Once you have the top down and the holes lined up with the bolts, you can push it down to lock it in place. Once you have the top down and secure, we can take the tape off the lid, plug the washer back in, turn the water back on, and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.